What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the August 15th, 2022 edition of Raw Talk, being hosted this week by Scott Stanford, Matt Camp in the studio. They run down the biggest headlines from Monday's show, including the opening segment, where the Judgment Day laid out Rey Mysterio to set up Damian Priest and Edge for next week. The first interview backstage with Sarah Schreiber is with the Judgment Day, and they catch Rhea Ripley doing pull-ups on the locker room, a la Rey Mysterio from his debut 20 years ago, which I thought was a nice callback. They scare off Sarah Schreiber, and Damian Priest basically says, along with Rhea, that they will end Edge come next week on Raw. So kind of short and sweet, but the Rhea Ripley callback to Rey Mysterio's debut was the highlight of this, and I thought it was really well done. Peter Rosenberg was the special guest analyst on this episode. He recalls Rey Mysterio's celebration of his debut a couple of weeks ago being ruined by the Judgment Day. They preview Edge versus Priest for next week. Rosenberg acknowledges that Edge will have the advantage in his native Toronto next week on Raw, and that Priest winning that match would be historic for him. They also recap Asuka and Alexa Bliss beating the duo of Nikki and Doudrop to advance in the WWE Women's Tag Team Title Tournament in a quarterfinal match. We hear from Bayley backstage along with Dakota Kai and Io Shirai ahead of their semifinal match in the tournament next week with Alexa Bliss and Asuka. Bayley says that they're doing things their way. They promise to win a Clash at the Castle. Dakota Kai says that she feels great coming off her first singles win on Raw over Dana Brooke. They plan to continue to control and dominate the division, and they will win next week. And Io Sky, I think, says something in Japanese real quick, and she kind of keeps it short and sweet and says, Raw is theirs now at the very end. Scott Stanford and Matt Camp preview the six-woman tag team match for Clash of the Castle, a lot like they did last week before Matt Camp specifically favors Sky and Kai to win in next week's semifinal match to advance to the finals. And I think go all the way and win the tag team titles, and in his opinion, I believe, is what he said last week. Matt Camp also says that Lashley's knocking down all challengers right now. They replay Riddle and Rollins brawling on Raw and also recap Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. Their great match from Raw, which I enjoyed their promo as well. Backstage, we hear from Drew McIntyre very briefly, who says that Raw feels like his home, and he also hypes up the Clash of the Castle match with Roman Reigns for the top championship, and he promises to bring the belts back to Raw and SmackDown, but in that match on Monday, he felt Owens' intensity. And he says that Owens is going to get the first shot if he could beat Roman Reigns for that undisputed WWE Universal Championship at Clash of the Castle. Peter Rosenberg says that he was impressed with Drew McIntyre, and he's glad the sword is out of the way, which I completely forgot it wasn't even on Raw. I'm glad they acknowledged that. He praises Drew's promo, and Matt Camp relates it to the pre-WrestleMania 36 run he was on and knocking down all challengers ahead of facing Brock Lesnar at 36 and becoming WWE Champion for the first time. He knows what he's done to make this show happen as far as everything he's put into, putting the company on his back and whatnot. As for Owens, he kind of feels like Owens' promo lit more of a fire under McIntyre than it did Kevin Owens. So very crucial information going into the Roman Reigns match at Clash of the Castle. And then to close it out, Rosenberg says it was just a great Raw, and he doesn't care if people call him a shill for WWE because he says that's what people call him anyway, so whatever. But he praises Riddle, his intensity, and Camp says that he can pick up the biggest win of his career at Clash of the Castle if he can beat Seth Rollins. They also promote Raquel Rodriguez and Ernie Jr., Ezekiel's father, for the bump coming up on Wednesday. So pretty straightforward edition of Raw Talk this week. I thought the Rhea Ripley callback at the beginning was great. Enjoyed that. Drew's promo, short, sweet, straight to the point. We also got to hear from Bayley's crew as well. So thumbs up for this edition of Raw Talk for this week. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I appreciate it. We'll catch you next week here on the Raw Talk review right here on the channel. Have a great week, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.